Doyle, it's good to see you.
It's good to see you too, Sue. It's been way too long.
I hate it. I was like, literally, when was last? Hey. Oh, this is so perfect. I can't even. Jill's cat always makes cameos on the call up.
She's around.
Yeah, if June doesn't pop in, I'm going to be very disappointed.
What is up, everybody? Welcome into our AT&T 5G virtual studios and the call up. This is your brown liquor special to get you primed and set for the postseason. I'm Jillian Sakovitz. That is Susanna Collins. And if you can guess by the vibe that we are putting out for this episode, yes, the armchair analyst, the MLS guru, the MLS king, honestly. You know, like you have the commissioner and then you have the king. And that is our guest today, Matt Doyle. It's a fascinating conversation. He makes us all better and more informed MLSers. And he also, Susanna, the biggest takeaway I have is he piques your interest in things that you didn't even think there was a chance in hell you would be interested in, like refs and infringement. And that's just Matt Doyle for you. So the person who makes our league a better place, he will get you not only set for the postseason, but also just really enlightens us into yet another very interesting career path. It was just a fascinating conversation.
I could not agree more. I was so excited that we decided to finally get Doyle on this pod because, you know, he is a dear friend. We have worked with him for a number of years now, but he's such an interesting guy, you know, beyond his incredible soccer brain, which we're so grateful that we have. He's a fascinating dude, and he's had so much life experience, and he loves so many different things like musical theater and cats and all of these, you know, like I called him a Renaissance man, and I mean it. Like he is a true Renaissance man and just a gem of a human. And we are delighted that we get to chat with our good buddy, Matt Doyle, today. Time now for AT&T 5G call to the field. We are so excited because we're ready for the playoffs. We are in full-on playoff mode, and here to really set the stage is our dear friend, our very own armchair analyst, Matt Doyle. We love you. We miss you. We're so excited to have you and your cat. Which cat is this? That we see.
That was Taquito, who just, like, as soon as you said action, he was out of the shot.
What happens?
Usually, no, I mean, he's usually the opposite. Like, he would sit right in front of the camera, but I got a little surprise for you. Baby girl's been sitting on my lap the whole time.
Oh gosh. It just
Doyle knows what to bring to a call-up taping.
Oh, this is just so on brand. How are you, Doyle?
I'm good.
It's been a minute.
It has. And it's like the whole past 18 months or more than that now feels like a weird dream. Like I remember back to when we had the studio, we would get to hang out a couple times a week. And now it's just, I'm really happy that we've been able to do the virtual thing.
Yeah.
And we get to, you know, be on each other's shows occasionally. It's not the same though.
No,
it's not the same. I miss the
miss?
camaraderie.
I miss watching matches with you because, you know, back in the day, we had our studio and we had our little green room set up with all the screens, and watching an MLS match with Doyle is special. Like, I feel like it was a real privilege. I'm not kidding. Cause like, I always learned something. It was like, there was something
and you
about
could ask any question and get your answer.
Literally. And that, like, I feel like I am a dumber MLS fan having not had the proximity to you that I used to. And
you guys are flattering me, so now I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop.
So, Matt Doyle, for our call-up listeners, you know, who may or may not be super familiar with the armchair analyst, basically you are the person that is the historical and tactical reference for everything in Major League Soccer going all the way back to the beginning days. So we kind of want to go all the way back to the Matt Doyle beginning days. What were you doing before you worked in MLS? And like, how did you start off working in MLS? And then how did you solidify yourself as this person? Like, we want to know. There's some kid sitting at home that wants to be the armchair Matt Doyle.
Well,
There's
I mean,
some kid sitting at home who wants to be the next Matt Doyle.
Yeah, but do you want me to tell him all my secrets so that he could take my job?
No.
I mean, come on. No,
Cliff note.
I actually started as a sports writer when I was still in high school. Like I needed to have a part-time job. So I just went down to the local paper and I said, can I cover high school sports? And they said, sure, like, let's give it a test run. And it was good enough. And so my dad would just drive me around to like whatever the assignment was in the Northwest Hills of Connecticut. And yeah, everything from like field hockey to, football and all in between.
Doyle, you may have been at one of my games. Who knows?
I could have actually, yeah. Now that I think about it. Well, actually, you were a little after my time. Maybe, if you have a young aunt, I could have been at her games.
Sure.
But I took that into college. And so when I was at UConn, I covered the men's and women's soccer team there. And there were a lot of prominent American soccer journalists at the time who were in the press box with me. So I got an education from those guys, like watching, which were, really good UConn teams back in the old Big East. Like I was seeing what I saw, but then they would talk me through and tell me what they saw. And like that kind of sparked something. And of course that was right when MLS was starting. And I knew the way I viewed it was that, the national team would never get to the level that I wanted it to be at. And we would never produce the types of players that we all want to see unless the domestic league was great. And it's been a journey. I've loved MLS from day one. Hasn't always been great. It has not always been great, but we're in a good spot now. So here's the thing. I started as a sports writer when I was 15 years old. By the time I was 25, I was burnt out. And
you were a curmudgeon old writer.
I was a curmudgeon already.
This explains so much.
So that was when I moved to New York. And I moved to New York not with the intention of being a sports writer, but with the intention of becoming a playwright. And so I wrote a few one-act plays. I had one, produced off Broadway. And the other part of it was like, being a playwright is a great way to meet girls. I eventually met my wife that way. And through the aughts, we had this wonderful life where I was just an MLS fan and I was a very, very struggling playwright. And eventually I realized I was a much better sports writer than a playwright. And at that point, this job opened up. And I had a good friend who was one of the first hires at MLSsoccer.com. And I said, put my resume in front of whoever makes hiring decisions every single day. And eventually, that's kind of how I got the job.
This is amazing. I feel like we were just on an incredible journey with you, but it's so serendipitous and I love it so much. It's so fascinating.
I think this transitions us, Susan, to like the perfect...
Should we do we
we should.
Yeah. Okay. We're real excited.
We're going to jump ahead a little bit just because Doyle. We're so pumped for this.
Well, you and I share a love of musical theater. We know this. Yes. We have discussed this in depth. In fact, I was saying to Galena, our producer, one of my favorite MLS memories is you, me, and Goss breaking into Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat.
That is my favorite MLS. That is my favorite MLS memory.
Joseph's mother, she was quite my favorite wife. I never really loved another all my life. And Joseph was my joy because he reminded me of her.
Through young Joseph, Jacob lived his youth again. Loved him, praised him, gave him all he had, but then it made the rest feel second best. And even if we were, I would watch that like 3 or 4 times a year, just randomly be like, I gotta go see that because it's the most fun I've ever had.
It was magical.
I'm so like in awe of you. I mean this adoringly, but like theater nerd. Like I'm so in awe of the two of you that I don't know what you're talking about.
You're not a theater. You grew up outside New York City. Like
my mom was an off-Broadway ballerina.
See? Well, listen, you have a connection, Jill. We need to.
It's in your blood.
Does it help that I played soccer? Does that get me any street cred? No.
I mean, not as much as the theater stuff. Right?
Bend It Like Beckham should be a musical, and if it happens,
oh my God! We just had our $1 million idea.
I have been thinking about this for years, Doyle. I'm not kidding. It's in the brain. Like, listen, we'll talk. We will talk. So yeah, like I mean, it's one of the things. You're such a Renaissance man. Like this is what we love and appreciate about you is that, yes, you're like hardcore analytics, soccer, but then you have this incredible artsy side and you love theater and appreciate it. And so we have been, I think we can all agree that like the 2021 MLS season has been just a roller coaster of emotions. It's just been kind of all over the place. And so we thought it would be kind of fun to pick a few teams. And then you pick a show tune that sort of encapsulates that team's season overall in 2021.
Just off the top, we're going to say Agony for FC Cincinnati, right? I mean,
can we say what
I did? So Agony is from Into the Woods, which is a Stephen Sondheim musical, one of my favorites. I played Cinderella twice. If that tells y'all anything. But Agony is beautiful.
And just so you know, Jill, Cinderella in Into the Woods is one of like the great female roles in musical theater. So
naturally,
that was a flex from Suze right there. That was a flex.
Yeah. See, I'm trying to play devil's advocate here, and for our listeners who maybe don't watch any of this, know what the heck you two are talking about. Okay, so thank you, Doyle. We need those. We need those notes.
I had "Don't Cry for Me, Cincinnati." I just changed the words.
Okay, the 2021 New England Revolution, Doyle.
The Impossible Dream for Men of La Mancha, because this team has been to 5 MLS Cups, and they've won none of them, and it feels like an impossible dream for this fan base. So and Men of La Mancha, for those who don't know, it's like a classic. It's a classic from the mid '60s, pretty much the golden age of Broadway. Wonderful song. Yeah,
I picked Defying Gravity because they've done things that we haven't seen before. So
I'm gonna confess something to you, Suze. I've never actually seen Wicked.
Okay, well, again, we're gonna have to.
You knew it was from Wicked.
I did. Yeah, it's a step.
I've seen Wicked.
There you go. So
did you enjoy it? Did you enjoy it? See?
I love how she's bright green. Oh, it really sticks with me. I was like, how are you so green? Okay. How would you describe in a show tune, Matt Doyle, Minnesota United?
One from the chorus line, because, I mean, this team, they're a very good team, but Emmanuel Reynoso is just like this singular playmaker. He's a genius. He makes everything around him beautiful. So just a very surface level reading of those lyrics, I think, or even just the title of the song, I think makes sense. That said, thematically, it doesn't really make sense because, and Suze knows this, a chorus line is this wonderful musical where you're meeting the men and women in the chorus line, and they're telling you their unique stories and how, you know, they've had to endure these horrible things really to make it on Broadway, and you get to know them as individuals. And then this climactic, just one of the great songs ever on Broadway. The climax,
kick line, Jill.
It's got a kick line where they all like blend in together, and all their individual identity is subsumed into the idea of the chorus. So you forget everything.
So the chorus is Reynoso, is what you're saying.
I mean, if we're going to explore it that deeply in terms of the theme, it doesn't actually work. It doesn't actually work. Okay. But like, I just love the song too much, and I got to use it somewhere.
Listen, I love it. I think that's perfect. What would I have for Minnesota? Oh, I had Maybe This Time from Cabaret.
That sounds shady. I don't know what it's about, but that sounds a little shady.
It's actually like a really like sad, tragic song. Like maybe this time is the time that I'm gonna get. It's like maybe this time I'll get lucky. Maybe this time I'll win. But then there's no way that's gonna happen. So that's a little bleak. That's a little bleak. We got dark. Okay. What about Vancouver?
Run, Freedom, Run from Urinetown, which is, again, one of my favorite, like, way under the radar musicals. This song is, it just sort of lines up perfectly with the Vanni Sartini thing, because if you looked at Vancouver, how they played before Vanni Sartini, they were so static and no movement off the ball, afraid to play forward. And since he's taken over, they've become one of the most entertaining teams in the league, and they have freedom to run, and they're using it. So there you go.
I love that you just dropped a Urinetown reference.
I am
underrated.
Ready. I am ready for a revival. I am ready for a Urinetown revival. It's been 20 years, right? Like, time. Yeah.
Oh, God.
Let's get into some rapid fire type stuff with you, Matt Doyle, about this season, about your entire career. As the MLS grew, we're a big part of your jobs analyzing MLS, in which players, coaches, fans, front office, you put them just into a little bit of a tizzy, perhaps. So we're going to take a walk down memory lane, and this is called the Doyle Boil. In this Doyle Boil, who was a youngin' that you were absolutely right about?
Tyler Adams. Yeah, like and to be fair, with a talent like Tyler Adams, you start hearing it from other people who are involved in youth soccer and then involved with the Red Bulls first. But like, they were all high as could be on him, and as soon as I saw him, I was high as can be on him as well, and he has more than lived up to that.
Indeed. All right. This is good. A coach that was offended by you, and how did they confront you?
I can't name names with that.
Sure.
But I'm going to say that if you listed all 27 MLS coaches, put them on paper, put it against the wall, and threw a dart blindfolded, whichever one it hit would be someone who was offended at something I wrote and was upset about it at some point.
All right, without naming names, what's like the funniest thing though that like perhaps a coach said to you when they saw you or they emailed you? Because I know that they message you from time to time.
Well, I will say that one coach, you know how I am on Twitter. Like everything that I write on Twitter is very serious.
Right.
One coach did not understand that I had tongue-in-cheek about one of my tweets, and he sent off a screed. He said like that had to be a 1,000-word email, and all I did was write back. I was like, dude, it was a joke.
It was a joke.
Yeah.
Sarcasm.
Yeah.
There's a couple names swirling in my head. I don't want to.
He hasn't spoken to me since then, though.
Oh no! Maybe after this episode, he will. Maybe you guys will bond over show tunes or something. Okay, Matt Doyle, what is your favorite day of the MLS year?
Oh, that's a really good one. It's corny, but I love first kick. I just love it, because like, you know how it is, guys. Like, we're worn down by the end of the year, and like we all love the regular season and the playoffs and everything, but we also need that little break to sort of recharge and get ready for the next season. And by the time first kick comes, I'm amped up again. I feel refreshed and ready to go. Endless possibilities. And the first kick games are usually really, really good. Our opening weekend of the season is always really good. The month after that, usually substantially less good. Yeah, you got it. Yeah,
it happens. That was beautiful. Okay. That was really beautiful. Okay, on that same note, Doyle, what is your biggest pinch me moment that you have had while doing this job?
The Zlatan goal.
Because it happened? Were you in the studio for that?
I was in the studio for
and
that.
Just because you're so diehard that simply because it happened.
That entrance in that game, where it was like everybody's like, oh, it's going to be a rivalry, and if people forget how great Vela was in that game, and like, oh, he's stealing the show. This is, by halftime it was like, this is a new, and then Zlatan came on, and his first damn touch, he scored that goal, and I remember Kalen getting up and putting his hands like on top of his head with his eyes as big as teacups, and he's just walking around the studio unable to speak.
Everyone remembers where they were for that. That's a great
It was the best entrance in MLS history for sure.
Transitioning into our Boyle Doyle into 2021. Let's say a listener of ours is one of those 50-50 chances that their team is not in the playoffs. Give them a team that they should root for and why.
Philadelphia is fun because they play good, relentless soccer, and they've built their team in a different kind of way. And I will admit, I like to watch teams that develop their own players. I think MLS teams have to do that in order to reach the heights that we as a league want to reach. So just in terms of proof of concept, I think Philly's a good bet in the East. In the West, I'm going to bring it back to Vancouver, man. They have been so much damn fun over the past 3 months. They developed some players of their own, but they've also kind of like, sifted through the lost and found to put some of that team together a little bit.
That.
Yeah, with Brian White, who you guys had on, was it last week or was it 2 weeks ago? That's a very, very easy team to root for as well. So there's your Eastern team and your Western team.
Oh, I like that. Okay, who do you think is going to be the most fun? The player that you think will be the most fun to watch in these playoffs coming up?
Oh boy, that is the most obvious answer probably has to be Carlos Gil, right? Mm-hmm. Because he's going to win the league. He got my vote for league MVP, and he was the best player in the league this year. That said, Joseph in the playoffs is special. And I think Joseph is still only 75% of what he was before the ACL, but he still had like 12 goals in 1,500 minutes. So if they can get him healthy for this month, like Joseph is so much fun to watch. He's just relentless. And I hope that he's back to 100% sooner rather than later.
You know what I like about those takes, Doyle, is like never when someone battles an injury, they kind of get wiped off the face of the earth to qualify for MVP. So I love not holding that against Carlos Gil and just being like, you were out of this world when you weren't injured, and just what he did, and his numbers are still far and beyond everyone who got to play 34 games. And then as for Joseph, I think that, being around him all year, he'd be the first one to admit that he's not at 100%. And I think that has pulled at him. And I think that he cannot freaking wait to even feel like 75, 80%. So yeah, I'm excited for that. You're getting me so primed for the postseason. I can only imagine how our listeners feel. All right, Boyle Doyle, I wanted to ask you this one and I skipped it. Tactically, let's say you were calling out, like, I think you should be playing so-and-so as an 8, or I think that you're more of a 6. Tactically, who was something or someone you called out that later on, like that coach or front office member, like thanked you and was like, you're right?
Again, I can't, that hasn't been public, but it has happened. I will say this, instead of going with the tactical thing, I will say that I have been banging the drum for the need to call persistent infringement, to card persistent infringement for a long time. And I have had multiple MLS refs reach out to me and be like, like, you're right. And that was several years ago. And if like the fact that MLS refs are now better at calling persistent infringement than they used to be, like I take a little bit of pleasure in that.
This is Suze's Cinderella moment. Yours is infringement.
Doyle, you are literally making your stamp like on the game.
I love it.
I'd like to think so.
Your legacy. This is incredible. That's a really good one. Okay, it's that time of year when the year-end awards are being announced, and I know we all had to make your vote. You said that you voted for Carlos Gil for MVP. There's a couple that we just want to get your take on. We won't go through all of them, but obviously you are such a big proponent of playing your kids. I know on ETR, it's like the big mantra, play your kids. So for you, Matt Doyle, who is your MLS Young Player of the Year?
It's hard to go with anybody besides Ricardo Pepi.
Yeah.
What he did this year for Dallas would have been eliminated from the playoff, and obviously they didn't make the playoffs, but they would have been eliminated by June if he hadn't come out and been, he had the best or second best year that a teenage attacker has ever really had in this league. So there were a lot of other good young players, but what he did at that age is unprecedented. It's got to be him.
We're going to talk about, of course, the U.S. in a moment. You knew we weren't going to have you on here without talking about the U.S. But on that note, because let's face it, everyone loves to talk about the positives, but everyone likes to talk about snubs. So we know you got Carlos Gil for MVP. Who was your biggest snub across all the finalist lists?
It was hard for me. Well, across the finalist lists, Maxime Crepeau should have been the third goalkeeper. Like Andre Blake and Matt Turner were a given, but Maxime Crepeau has been just absolutely fantastic this year. And it kind of stunned me that he wasn't the third goalkeeper in a goalkeeper of the year. But now he shouldn't win. It should be Turner or Blake. But like those three guys were a level above everyone else in the league, and I was disappointed. Now, I always have huge gripes with the year-end lists for what it's worth. So part of the job, I guess.
I feel like everyone's on Turner or Blake. So where do you stand on that?
Honestly, I thought Blake was a little bit better this year. But I thought Turner was better the past 2 years. So, and Blake won. So I don't mind if Turner wins this year over Blake.
Okay,
to just
fair.
like karma to even it out.
Okay, I have a question for you because I was thinking about this yesterday, and when I was making my votes, I was like, I had like a real inner like conundrum with this comeback player of the year.
There's a million,
right? But then it's like I saw this debate going on Twitter. It was like, what is the bigger comeback? Coming back from like a crappy season previously, or coming back from an injury that has, that could have maybe been career ending. Like where do you fall on like,
you're like, is it two?
Yeah. Like should it be two separate categories? Cause I was my God, like I could vote for, like you said, I could vote for like 10 awards. Guys that come to mind.
So, I mean, no, I refuse to vote for like Daniel Chaloy. Had a wonderful year, but like he wasn't injured the past 2 years.
Yeah.
He was just bad. And like, I don't think he deserves an award for that.
Right, like you set the bar really low, so then you blow it out of the water the next year.
Right.
So it's like
same with like Chicharito. It's like you were like, I mean, he was like injured, but it wasn't like a torn ACL.
He had a hard
like
year,
that.
guys.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
That is where we get into the gray area, right?
Yes.
Because Chicharito has been very upfront about mental health issues and everything, and like so it's very tough to be like, well, he wasn't physically that hurt, but he kind of was because his head wasn't in the right place. But that's why I kind of narrow it down to just like, were you injured last year? Yes. Did you miss most of the year? Yes. Were you healthy this year and were you awesome? Yes. Okay, so you're on my list. So guys like Andy Nahar, Carlos Heel, Joseph to a degree, Sebastian Blanco. Like those are the guys who I consider for comeback player of the year, more than guys who just bounce back from a bad season.
Okay. That kind of,
there you go,
I think, well, no, that's actually really helpful because I think that's where I was leaning, and now I feel like Doyle just
we got to get that on the disclaimer for the voting because it is a conundrum. All right, USA. The November window, obviously in full swing, and we're all feeling great after our Dos a Cero moment against Mexico. Doyle, what was your biggest takeaway from that 2-0 win over Mexico? How should we be feeling?
Really psyched. That I've been talking with friends who are some of the elder statesmen of U.S. soccer journalism, and even more elder than me, and like they. To a man, they all say like that's the best that we have ever seen the U.S. play. And it wasn't that game because it wasn't just about the scoreline. Like we've obviously beaten Mexico 2-0 in the past, but we haven't controlled the game like that. Mexico had no chance. Mexico always has a chance against us, but they were reduced to like a couple of counterattacks, and that was it. They couldn't even when they were down 1-0 and trying to to find that late equalizer. Like they were just clearing the ball out of their own, out of their own defensive third. That's how we created the second goal. That's how the U.S. created the second goal. We don't do that to Mexico. We've never done that to Mexico. Now, I think degree of difficulty, you could say the 2009 win over Spain, or even that win over Egypt, which was a really good team, and we could have won that game 5-0, or the 2002 quarterfinal loss to Germany, maybe were better performances. But this one is right there with it because all the stuff that Greg Berhalter has been saying about wanting to disorganize the opposition with the ball, which is not traditionally something that American teams do very well, came to the fore. Like they were able to go out there and do that against Mexico, which is one of the two, I guess maybe three best teams in the region now. And then at the same time, they were able to weaponize the U.S. team's physical superiority. Like go back and watch that game and look at the number of second balls the U.S. win in central midfield, because like Ache and Edson Alvarez and Bromo, of course, they couldn't keep up. And so all of that came together in a performance that was like dominant by the eye test, dominant statistically, and just dominant aesthetically as well.
Do you think?
Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to ask, like, because like up until like I agree with everything you're saying. And like I have been, you know, U.S. men's Twitter or U.S. men's national team Twitter is like just a very interesting place to exist, especially during World Cup qualifiers. And like, you know, people were like a month ago, like, what are we doing? Greg Berhalter, you know, is a joke. Like, get him out and all of this. And I, you know, it's like, is that fair? Like, was the panic fair? Or did you, Doyle, always kind of believe that like this level that we saw them play at against Mexico was ultimately like we were going to get there? Because it has been like this. And now I feel like everyone's up here. Yeah. But then if we get a crappy result against Jamaica, is everyone then going to
everyone will
jumping ship again?
Yeah, everyone will jump ship again because that's just the nature of fandom. I will say that I've spoken with Greg Berhalter a bunch, and he's super smart. And I think he's a really good coach. I think he's made some mistakes, and those mistakes have warranted real criticism. I also think that
is roster rotation the biggest mistake that you'd say he's made?
I mean,
large levels of roster rotation?
I can't 100% say that. I think that the bigger mistakes were kind of being overly clever with how he lined up against, say, El Salvador, or even against Honduras. Like, we played that in a 3-4-2-1 with a group who had never played together, and like they looked all out of sorts, and that was a self-inflicted wound. Like the way the U.S. played against Panama. Now, obviously, the coach is not ever without blame, but like Kellen Acosta should have been better. Sebastian Lletget should have been better. That entire team should have been better. Like, they were just playing a straightforward 4-3-3, which all of those players had played before and played well in the Gold Cup, in other competitions, and they just laid an egg. So I think Panama was much more about the players than about the coach. And I actually think Berhalter's decision to rotate the squad, like, we've seen it in these 3-game windows, man. If you don't rotate the squad, you get pumped in the third game. So I have trouble criticizing him too much for that, though obviously the degree to which he did it ended up being self-defeating.
Doyle, this was like an incredible conversation, and it was so serious, and we were so in the zone that our cats didn't even bother us. Before we let you go, I'm not going to make you pick a winner because I just think it sets us up for disaster. But who do you think's playing come December in our MLS Cup final?
I don't know.
Okay. I love that answer.
I'll say this. I'll be legitimately shocked if the Sounders don't come out of the West.
Okay.
I just think that they do, man. It's tradition. Like they have obviously one of the best goalkeepers in MLS history. They have, I think, what is the best back line in the league today. They have, João Paulo, I had him second on my MVP ballot at D-mid. And now they have Ladero, Rui Diaz, and Jordan Morris back. Like, they just seem to have a level above. I'm not going to pick them to win MLS Cup, though, because I did last year, and we saw what happened in MLS Cup. And look, the Revs are really good. NYCFC is really good. Nashville, Philly. I don't know who's coming out of the East, man.
Doyle, you know what? Just show us your ways. We'll follow you wherever you go. You're the OG.
That's just your secrets,
we adore
please.
you. Am I right, though, Jill? Do you not feel like smarter?
I want to cry
after this
I want to cry
conversation.
No, I feel like I need this for speaking of my mental health. I feel like I need this for my mental health to kick off the week.
No, 100%.
This may have been what my Monday needed yesterday.
Yeah. Exactly. Tuesday is essentially Monday. It's basically the same thing.
Yeah.
Doyle,
we miss you and we love you.
We love you so much.
I have a request. Suze, you got to sing us out. Cinderella.
Oh, God. Let's see. Which one should I do? You think, what do you want? You think, make a decision. Why not stay and be caught? You think, well, it's a thought. What would be his response? But then what if he knew who you were when you know that you're not what he thinks that he wants? How about that? Thank you. It's a song called Steps of the Palace, where Cinderella is stuck on the steps of the palace and she is making a big life decision.
When we
that'll
reunite,
be
we're
the
going
song.
to a show.
Yes, absolutely. And that'll be the song that we use for whoever finishes runner-up in MLS Cup. Stuck at the steps of the palace.
Here for this. We are unequivocally here for this, and we are unequivocally here for Vanni Sartini, who is currently serving as the sort of interim head coach of the Vancouver Whitecaps. And we're going to put it out here right now. Hire this man. Give him the full-time job, because not only has he done incredible things with that team, playoffs, but he is social media gold. Okay, we talked about him and his cat.
He has a Bengal cat.
He's got the Bengal cat, Frida, who is just a superstar in her own right. But then he goes and posts this little video of him cooking lasagna and talking soccer, and I'm just like, this
on
is
like Vancouver's morning show, right? And it's like, come on.
This is I just want to hang out with him. I want to be his friend, and we need this man in the league. So I just want Vancouver Whitecaps to do us a solid and hire him full time, because he checks every single box. He is a character. He's a great coach. Just more of that, please. If
you don't hire him, somebody else will. And there's not a lot of media. We will. There's not a lot permanently. There's not a lot of I shouldn't say that. Not every coach is the most media-friendly guy. He's going on a cooking show. He's making lasagna, telling you why you should watch postseason. We're here for Vanni Sartini. And you know what? I'm here. This is a call to action, which I'm a really big fan of doing on this show, because I know all the coaches listen. I think more coaches should be following suit. You can prepare for the postseason, and you can go make lasagna. You can do both.
100% here for it.
What is on tap? Well, national team action is the U.S. men's national team are back in action tonight against Jamaica. Check this out for all you old hibernating little people out there. I know I am. 5:00 Eastern on Paramount Plus. Then at 9 Eastern, late, Canada takes on Mexico. Make sure you tune into Extra Time Club and Country, driven by Continental Tire, as the Extra Time crew breaks down all of the action.
Absolutely. And don't forget, you can join Matt Doyle, our guest of honor, alongside Andrew Wiebe, David Goss, and Kaylin Carr tonight. As soon as they drop those lineups, go on Extra Time's Twitter Spaces and tune into all the MLS platforms after the final whistle of that Canada game for post-game reactions and analysis. Those guys are a lot of fun. They'll set you up.
And there's still time for you to fill out your Audi 2021 MLS Cup Playoffs Bracket Challenge. You can win 10,000 buckaroos. Head over to MLSsoccer.com and do that. You have to do it before round 1 kicks off. You have until November 20th. So do it and prove us all wrong.
Oh, the pressure. And yeah, as Jill said, the Audi 2021 MLS Cup Playoffs kick off this Saturday. This Saturday, kids, 2:30 p.m. Eastern, as Philly takes on the Red Bulls, followed up by Kansas City taking on the Whitecaps at 5 p.m. Eastern. I'm going to be at that game. So pumped. And then on Sunday, NYCFC taking on Atlanta at 3 p.m. Eastern. Jill will be covering that match. It's going to be intense. I know. And then Portland takes on Minnesota at 5:30 p.m. Eastern. So for the full playoff schedule, head on over to MLSsoccer.com. It's all happening. My blood pressure is rising, and I'm not mad. I'm excited, actually.
And you know what? There's more voting that you can do. Make sure your voice is heard at MLSsoccer.com and cast your vote for AT&T Goal of the Year and Save of the Year, presented by Allstate. Voting is open until the 19th. At midnight. So get your votes in. Susanna Collins, there's a bunch of goals you can pick from and a bunch of saves. Who did you go with for your goal?
There were some incredible goals. And as we were going through the list, I was like, oh my gosh. But the one that just sticks out that I can't stop thinking about is the bicycle kick from Dairon Espria. I mean, number one, a bicycle kick, I'm a sucker for a bicycle kick. I think most people are. But the way in which he just volleyed it to himself, and I can't get past it, Jill.
We're in agreement on that. I love an attempt at a bicycle kick. And then, damn it, when the bicycle kick works,
a failed bicycle attempt is always sad. It's like, oh,
no. See, I don't think they're sad. I think they're exciting.
I get sad.
I think they're
It's like they fall on their back awkwardly. And it's like,
no. For me, it's like almost like trying to throw up a half-court shot. It's exciting no matter what. And then if it works, it's super exciting. I love it.
I get so because when it works, it's like the most beautiful thing you've ever seen. But then it's so clunky. It's so clunky when they don't connect, and it's like, and I'm always like cringe.
As for save, I've got Jonathan Bond.
Oh yeah,
at number 5. The number 5 save when you take a look at them on Twitter.
That was the double save.
Too good to pass up.
Yeah,
as I was getting to, yes, it was.
I went with another double
save, which is like a bicycle kick. It's like. You're so disoriented, you probably haven't even refocused your vision, and then you somehow do it again, and that's why they make the big bucks.
To have the wherewithal to make one save, then immediately have the reaction to make the other one. That's why I went with Brad Stuver, had an incredible double save
We have such a soft spot for Brad Stuver on this show.
Well, he's a gem. He's also just a good human.
All right, people, we will see you after the first round of the playoffs.
So, here we
see you
go.
Then.
Buckle up, baby. What's up, everybody? It is Susanna Collins and Jillian Sakovitz, co-hosts of The Call-Up. And if you want more call-up action, hit like and subscribe right here on YouTube, right there.
And also make sure that you download every episode of The Call-Up every single Tuesday at 5 o'clock Eastern Time or anywhere that you get your podcasts. And while you're here, why not check out some of these other videos as well?